So about a week ago, JGigs did a video calling out all raid content creators about a spending strike in protest to the direction of the game. Now, I haven't had time to record a video to my response just yet until today, mainly because I've been super busy with hellhades.com maintenance stuff and updates this week. And also I wanted to let sort of the ground settle, get some reactions from other creators. I think he's also done a second video, which I've watched, in terms of his response to the video. I'm now here to give kind of like what I think, my response to that video. And I think what I kind of want to say is I think JGigs is right, but for all of the wrong reasons. And that might surprise you. You might think I'm trying to protect Plarium or promote Plarium or whatever, defend them. I just think he's hit the nail on the wrong head, but he's right to hit the nail, if that makes sense. So that said, let's get into the video. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, JGigs did a video where he basically, the Champion Xena pass came out and he was unhappy with it. And he basically said we should stop spending money in protest to the monetization, the direction the game is going. He had some valid points. He was saying things like they care only about money. He was talking about the fact that Champion Pass is low effort. He was talking about the fact that devs don't care about the game. They don't like their players. They hate you as a player. He was also talking about things like the pack offers have become too FOMO, too fear of missing out. And he was also critical of the champion design on that first video. Now, I do want to kind of like look at that and kind of say, well, I think his arguments in those videos were contradictory. And I think in some cases just wrong, just plain not right. And I think that's something where I want to start with. I know in his response video, he's corrected himself a little bit to say he didn't properly structure his arguments, which was, some of this stuff that could be true in terms of how I respond to it. It could be that I'm reacting to something that he would not have intended for that to be the structure. But I'll basically respond to that first video first. Now, the first thing I want to say is they only care about money. Well, that's kind of true. They're a business. They want to generate money. They have responsibilities to their stakeholders, to their staff and everyone else to make money and profit and grow the company. Do they care too much about money? Potentially. You could potentially say that their goal is to generate too much profit, but it's always difficult to know what that means in the grand scheme of things because you don't know how their business is operating, the challenges that they have. You can make a judgment about anything in game as to whether you think it's worth it. For me, the way I look at monetization in this game is it's not about the price, it's about the value for money. So if you want to spend $100, then that you can spend $100. What I'm looking at isn't the price of it, it's looking at do you get enough value out of your spend? And right now I think Plarium have made the system where, because of it, specifically for me as an endgame player, there's not a lot of value for spending money because I don't get a lot out of it. Out of a bit of energy, like the shards basically give me no champions, so the value for money is low. The other thing he kind of makes a statement of is that Raid is so heavily fear of missing out that it does it more than other mobile games don't do this. And I think I kind of disagree with that. I think if you look across all mobile games, they're all structured around the concept of FOMO, that if you don't do this limited time event, you're going to miss out on this, or there's a limited time pack that's giving you a special offer, or they do things like 99% off, or they do things like, buy the first one and you get like double points, but if you don't buy it, you don't get it after a certain time. Every gacha game is structured around converting the first purchase into then tricking you into spending more money before you figure out you're spending too much money and you work your way back to an average spend. That is the way that these games work. Every mobile game is like this. I mean, I'm sure some mobile games are more friendly to the free-to-player, and I'm sure some games are more egregiously expensive, right? I think if I look at the scale, I would say something like Dragonair is pretty good for a low spender because you can spend like 20 to 30 bucks and get a lot of money for that. You get your battle passes, you get your daily packs. They also do a lot of $1 packs, like they did a $1 get yourself an epic champion, for example. Whereas if I look at something like when Diablo Immortal came out, you physically couldn't get any gems without buying them. It was a straight paywall, right? And every mobile game to some degree is doing this model. So I disagree with that. I 100% agree with the champion pass being boring. I said this in my video. They basically did the lowest effort pass ever. But I will say that most players who did the pass got a free sacred shard. So it's not like it's the worst thing they've ever done in the world. It's not like it's so bad that nobody gets anything. You get a free sacred shard. You don't have to spend any money for that. And you don't have to buy the champion. And to be fair, you've got 3 months to decide. So you could actually sit here for 3 months and get the champion all the way at the last day if you wanted to. Whereas most of the packs in Raid last for 24 hours. Some of them even are instant. So to some extent, you could say it's like the least fear of missing out offer they've ever done. He also said the champion doesn't look like Xena the Warrior Princess. I think that's maybe him just getting a little bit like frustrated because I've looked at if you go look at pictures of Xena the Warrior Princess and you compare it to the champion, they kind of look the same. They're pretty much spot on. I don't really think you can, they're not going to be perfect. You're making a graphical representation in the game engine. It looks like it's got the same armor, it's got the same hair color, the facial structures are the same, the weapon looks the same. Keep in mind that this is an IP partnership specifically with the IP holders of Xena Warrior Princess. So they're not going to sign off on anything that looks bad because it's going to affect their IP. So I don't really agree with that point. There's two things I really kind of want to say about that first video, which was he contradicted himself because he basically made an entire video about how the game monetization is making it unplayable, and then said the game is really fun to play, free to play, there's loads of things to do, you don't need to do everything. So you can't have it both ways. You can't criticize them for making a pay to win game and then say it's absolutely fun, it's a great game to play for free. That doesn't really make sense to me. And also, I don't really feel like he offered any solutions. I feel like all JGigs did is basically, he got on his thing, he pressed record saying this game's terrible, you have to spend too much money, I'm not going to spend any more money, no one else should spend money. And those type of ultimatum based positions, they never start a conversation well and they never end well, right? It's just, I don't know, you're just not going to get anywhere with it because I'm talking from a developer's experience, from a customer support experience that I've done for many years. If someone comes to me and said this is terrible, fix it, I'm not really engaged with that conversation. If someone comes to me and says, hey, I've spotted this error, it would be better if it was like this could be better if it was like this would improve it by this, let me know what you think, I hope it gets implemented, I'm likely to engage in that rather than it's broke, fix it. Because someone is giving me a logical, constructive feedback to say, this is not so good, it could be improved. I might choose to disagree with them and not do it, but I'm going to listen to them, whereas I won't listen to that other person. So I think these ultimatum-based videos and ultimatum-based content and spending strikes and one-star bomb reviews, they don't really start off anywhere well, and they never end well. So that's what I would criticize. Now, in his response video to his own video, he kind of said, I didn't really construct my arguments properly. I didn't make notes, so it could have come across that I went down a bit of a rabbit warren and a bit of a rabbit hole and said the wrong things. Fair enough. I can understand. I've done these videos before where I start on position 1 and I end up somewhere totally off topic. I will say, though, he kind of said he never intended for any content creators to get any drama or hate, or his intention wasn't any sort of goal to make it difficult for content creators. But I think that's a little bit naive because you literally structured your content. The title of the video was officially calling out content creators, and then you started the video with saying you're calling out content creators. So you're almost like the first 10 seconds of your video is telling everyone who's watching you, go to the content creators and complain to them. It's not our fault. None of this is our problem. None of this is on us. This is Playroom you're complaining about, yet you basically put the problem on our doorsteps. To think that wasn't going to create and put us in an awkward position where if we disagreed with you, we would get loads of people saying, how come you can't agree with JGigs? You're a terrible person. I'm going to unsubscribe to you. Or if we agreed to you, it's kind of like, well, we then potentially put ourselves in an awkward position with whoever we feel like we need to respond to. I'm not in the creator program, so I've got a little bit more flexibility, but I'd imagine there'd be some content creators in the program that would feel uncomfortable promoting a spending strike because they would potentially get in trouble with the program. So I think that's a little bit naive. I think it was a little bit clickbaity in there. I don't really subscribe to, I never intended it to do this, because why would you expect it not to? And I think that's kind of a bit of a self-reflection moment that I think needs to happen. That, if you target content creators as your title, as the first 20 seconds of your video, you're basically saying to people who are watching the video, it's the content creator's responsibility. Not every player understands how these game systems work, how these how developers and companies work. I think a lot of the feedback that a lot of content creators got and a lot of content creators gave was basically that we're not big enough, that we're not enough of a player base, we're not enough of a presence. And I think JGigs made an attempt to try and clarify or contextualize how big of a segment of the cake the sort of video audience is. And I would imagine we are a reasonable size. Are we reasonable enough to make a dent? I don't think so, because I look at more than just YouTube. I'm looking at website traffic for us at hellhades.com. I'm looking at analytics, optimizer usages, and lots of different things. And I can tell you for quite a big fact that we're not anywhere near the biggest proportion of the player base. So whilst we might cause a little bit of a sort of like a little mini earthquake, we're not exactly going to cause a mega earthquake 9 times on the Richter scale to basically make a change here. All we're going to do is we're going to make them maybe think, oh, well, I wonder what's happening over here, right? That's probably what's going to happen. The community managers will be aware of the noise, But is that going to make it back to the marketing department and the executives? Probably not. You also got to remember as well, I think that this is an important fact, that some of these content creators that you're asking to, join this protest, they've been around for 4 years. Hell Hades has been around for 4 years. I think Ash has been around longer. A lot of the people that watch those videos aren't watching it because it's Raid anymore. They're watching it because it's Hell Hades or Ash or Deadwood or Scratch or all of these. They're watching their creator, not the game. I've seen so many comments on Hell Hades videos and my videos to some extent going, "Oh, love the video, blah, blah, blah. This is why I don't play Raid anymore. This is why I've stopped playing Raid. This is why I'm not playing Raid." They're still watching because they're following me, and some of them are following the Fateless development, so they're interested to see what Hell Hades has to say, for example. Obviously, I'm speaking from a personal experience in terms of what I'm more closely affiliated with. But I'd imagine lots of other content creators are like this if they're covering other games, right? They're looking, those followers and subscribers are looking to see what other games they're going to play. You can't literally go 100% of Hell Hades' audience is 100% of the Raid player base. That just doesn't work. I agree as well that he's trying to say that they do care about losing money. Yeah, if you're going to take 6 million revenue and drop it to 5 million, they're going to ask the question, what's going on? But I will say, a spending strike doesn't change the game direction. All it does is it reduces the game's development. Because all that's going to happen is these executives and these marketing departments are going to take the money out of the development budget. It's not going to come out of the top people. It's going to come out of the development budget. So if you want game improvements, stopping spending isn't necessarily going to result in the outcome. Because what he's talking about is taking spenders, customers, and making them free players, not customers. Well, all that's going to do to their analytics is go, well, our revenue is dropped, but our daily active users is the same. So the question then comes into it, how can we convert more users? And the answer to that will be give them more packs. That's not going to be develop new content. That's not going to be change the way that the packs are structured. That's going to be just give them more offers, make it more spendable, make it more like we need to spend. Because one of the most important analytics, sort of statistics for any sort of digital product, whether that's a game, whether that's a social network, whether that's a business or whatever, is two things: monthly recurring revenue, which is a signifier of how much sort of subscription and long-standing community base you have, alongside DAU, daily active users, and MAU, monthly active users. These sites want to see how many people are using their site or their product in a monthly and a daily activity, because that signifies growth. You can have no revenues, but a growing monthly and daily active user, and you will find that the investors are pretty happy with that and the stock price goes up. But you can have if you have the opposite, where you have good revenues, but your daily active and monthly active users are dropping, then the investors are going to go, maybe it's time to cash out right now because the game is starting to decline, because the interest in the product is lowering. While it's at its height, while the share price is really high, let's get out now. And that will drop the share price. That's how investors are kind of looking at it, right? Netflix, for example, lost a huge amount of share price. Why? Because they didn't convert as many subscribers, aka daily active users, monthly active users to their product. They didn't create enough, right? Because obviously they're paywalls. You have to subscribe to use that service. As soon as they started getting more of them, they made more money. And how did Netflix respond? They stopped account sharing. They tried to convert more customers. Now, in a free-to-play model, that's not quite, that's not the same. So essentially what Netflix identified was that their money was being watered down, the number of subscribers, because people were sharing accounts. So how can we do it? Make people spend money by basically having their own account. In Raid, what would happen is if the revenues were the same, but you all if the daily active users were the same, but you all stop spending, all they're going to look at is how can we convert you back to a spender? They're not going to look at the product or the thing. If they lost their users, then they're going to go, why aren't people playing our game? That's a different conversation. So here's my thing. If you want to really subscribe to JGigs protest, stop playing the game. Because it's the only way you're going to fix it. Because that way it targets their monthly and daily active users, and they start looking at it from a perspective of, okay, nobody's liking the product anymore. Do we need to improve the product? But then there's also one thing that does come in mind when that happens. They're going to look at it and go, okay, is the product still worth investing in, or do we make a new one? Is the game still relevant 5 years on, or do we make a new one? So there's always dangers when you go down this path. The last thing I want to really make a point about response to JGigs is I want to support what he was saying about the feedback that a lot of people were commenting on, which is, why are you making this video? It's just a game, right? This just a game comment, I think absolutely, I 100% agree with JGigs, is like, It's the most useless response you can give to a video. It doesn't contribute to his discussion. It doesn't contribute to his argument. It doesn't contribute to a counter argument. It doesn't add any context. Like, for me personally, I look at games as a means for a lot of people who struggle or can't make social connections in the general world to find communities, to make connections, to basically invest in a community around them. There's so many Discord communities that play the Raid game. You know, I'm not talking about Raid exclusively. I remember back when I was a 15-year-old kid in secondary school, and I found a community in Lord of the Rings Online. And that was very important for me when I was, socially awkward in school, didn't really like getting involved in lots of big communities in person, that I was able to find a space to develop socially online. Games give a platform for communities. So watering down this argument to it's just a game is just not fair on a lot of people who are emotionally or socially connected to these games, who want the game to succeed. And I just don't think it adds to the conversation. So I'm 100% behind JGigs. My main response back to this, and the reason why I said at the start of this video that JGigs is right for all the wrong reasons, is he's targeting the monetization model. And that is not the problem with Raid right now. The problem with Raid is there's not a lot to do. And I'm specifically talking from probably after 24 months. The first 24 months in Raid, there's so much to do, you almost like have no time. It's like, I don't have time to do the fusion and do masteries and progress in this area. You've got loads to do. When you hit 24 months, you start running out of things to do. And it's all about like, oh, well, I can get slightly more damage here, or I can go slightly faster here, which is fun to some extent, but it does become a little bit stale. This year, for example, the big three features has been Shogun, Sand Devil, and the live arena, right? Those are the three big areas of improvement. I know we've had Hydro Clash, but it's not really new content. That's just a competitive version of existing content. So the problem that we've got is we haven't, and Scratch made this point very well, we haven't had content that actually is new content. There's no new game modes. There's no new content modes. There's no new Doom Tower rotations. There's no new real competitive, like challenging content. It's content that's been developed for the sake of a stat bloat or or basically something of that nature, right? If we think Sand Devil was created so that you could farm the oil to make an ascension. It wasn't that Sand Devil was a game mode to complete. It was a farm mode. Same as Shogun. Live Arena, it was basically classic arena with bans. They didn't really innovate on the concept. Yes, to some extent, people can say it's fun, it's different, it does have a different meta to it, but it's essentially classic arena with bans. And the bans are meaningless, the drafting is meaningless, the meta is terrible, so it's a really bad experience unless you have really good champions, right? If you have the meta champions, you're loving life, you think you're the best player in the world. If you don't have your Tarichkas and you're really like the top 10 meta, Live Arena gets boring very quickly because you just can't compete. And even at the top end, I would say it's quite boring because you see the same champions over and over and over and over and over again. There's no build diversity, there's no differences, so it's kind of like a bit boring. So we haven't had this year any new content. There used to be a Hydra development plan that was meant to have a new Hydra head, new difficulties, new rewards, new different things. That went out the window. We've had nothing new developed to Hydra in over 12 months. Nothing modified, nothing new, nothing different. We've had Hydra Clash. That's basically taking Hydra and putting a tournament on it. That's not the same thing. You just basically, you haven't added new content there. You've just created a tournament. And all you've done is actually made it negative by doing that, because you've actually highlighted the problem, which is, it's not like Hydra is different or better. It's now, I have to spend even longer doing it. I have to spend even more time doing it. And that's not a very good positive content. You know, we could have easily had a new Doom Tower rotation with different bosses. That would have been fun. New challenges as we climb up the boss difficulties, but we just have had the same 3 rotations for the last 24 months, it feels like, or however long the bosses have been, all of them have been out. Faction Wars is basically auto farm. You add a new faction, we finish it in 2 days. It's not very challenging anymore. So I think what we really need is content, because as a content creator, I wake up every day and I think, okay, what am I going to talk about today? What interesting things are happening in Raid today? And I look at it and I go, well, there's a new pack. Because everything else is just the same thing we've had 18 months ago. We've had new events, but again, those events are based on pre-existing events, like the Deck of Fates that's happening right now. It's not like a completely new way to generate cards. It's do Dungeon Divers or Summon Champions. It's exactly the same event. It's just wrapped up in a different event and different layers of RNGs. My personal opinion is I'm not going to be joining the spending strike or promoting a spending strike. I'm not necessarily spending that much, if anything at all. I'm on the fence about whether I buy Xena because I think it's quite a good champion, and $40 for a champion that's quite good is not a bad price point in Raid's ecosystem. But I'm not exactly rushing to do it. I got 10 weeks. I'm not buying many of these Black Friday packs. I'm not advocating that you shouldn't do it. I actually think if you want to spend money and have fun, go for it. It's your life, it's your money, you've earned it, you do what you want. I'd say do it responsibly, don't get caught up in it, and also don't focus on it. If you can't buy the pack or you can't get the champions, it's not the end of the world. There'll be other opportunities. There will be new things happening. Don't make yourself be negative about it. And I think that's very easy to do with these things. So I'm not really subscribing to it. What I'm asking for, and I'm hoping it's coming this month, is that this new major content piece that is, quote, bigger than Doom Tower is as good as it's promised. We need new things to do in the game, and that's what I want. That is what I'm advocating for. And if that doesn't come, I think if this major content piece doesn't hit home, then Raid is in serious trouble. That is what they need to land. They need this new major content piece to work because people need new things to try and do in game. They want to have new challenges. So there you go, guys. A bit longer than I wanted it to be. I respect JGigs' position. I want to add that in there. I've been somewhat critical, I think, because I don't think his arguments are very productive, but I can see why he's creating those arguments, and there's validity to his arguments and why he's at that position. I just don't think the conclusion of a spending strike is very productive, and I think there are better ways to go about it. I would like to see Plarium get on top of this and actually come out in front of the community for once and actually answer some of our questions. You've got a content creator platform, right? You do these interviews from time to time, but they're always from Plarium's side. Let us, be the face of the community and answer the questions that the community is answering for, so you can make yourself be closely aligned with the community. Because I feel like the community at times is like Plarium's on their high castle, us lowly players are down in the marketplace, kind of like going, will our gods ever answer our prayers kind of scenario, where it's always like this disconnect. Get closer aligned. That's what you can do. Improve your communication. Things like that madman fix should never happen. Consult your community before you do it. Ask them the question. Learn from other developers, because that's what they're doing. Dragonair did an exact situation where they changed the way that Legendary Empowerment worked, and a lot of the content creators and a lot of the community were upset because they felt like it created a whole new power curve that could never be completed. You could never finish your champion. And instead of just putting their head in the sand and forgetting about it, they reverted the decision and apologized because they realized that it wasn't aligned with the community goal. And it's not like, everything needs to be like that, but things like the Madman nerf. Ask your community first. Don't just do it, because what you can earn then is some trust. Right now, I feel like the trust is a big problem. They don't really feel like they're the community doesn't feel like they're listened to. The monetization problem is a whole different thing. It's always going to exist. Content, community trust, communication, get out in front of it. Those are the things that I'm calling for. And that's what I would like to see happen. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.